Hi, I'm Chris from Tom's Outdoors, and today I'm going to give you a run through on my bike packing setup for 400 Ks from Yass to Albury via the Human Hovel track. So up the front of the bike, I've got an Ortlieb handlebar pack. This is a 15 litre one. Now in this, I've got my sleep gear. It's got a roll at each end. So on this trip, I'd actually taken my winter sleeping bag. So in here is a Rab Neutrino. It's a really warm bag. I knew that some of the spots that we're camped in were going to be potentially down to -5 or 6 with a good frost. So I'd taken my heavier winter bag, which is about 1,200 grams. If I was doing a warmer weather trip, I'm going to take my summer bag. So I'm going to save a bit of weight and space in the front. In the front, I've also got a little luxury item, Exped camp booties. End of the day, being able to slip these on, taking my cycling shoes off and wander around the camp and have warm and comfortable feet. Warmer months, set of Crocs, set of sandals, something else, but knowing that again, it was a cold weather trip, I'd gone for that camp booties. Hyperlight stuff sack pillow, basically using it as a storage bag, but once you turn it inside out, you've got a fleece side on there. Inside here, I have a change of thermals for the evening. What I normally do is put my jacket from the day inside that and use that as my pillow. So for me, that works out to be a fairly good combination. Keeping with the Ortlieb packs up top, I've got this Ortlieb Top Fuel. It's got these little magnetic closures as well. In here, snacks for while I'm on the bike. So muesli bars, nuts, that sort of stuff, and anything that I needed to grab hold of quickly and easily. Now it brings me down to my triangle. So for my trip, I actually relocated my water bottles. I've been using these Camelback Dirt Series, so they got a little cap over the top and keeps the crud out of the top of the nozzle. And I've relocated both of them down onto my front forks. Now, that gave me 1.2 litres on the front, which was good, and that worked fairly well for me. I'm actually able to reach down and pull them out and ride with them. I didn't find that I needed to have them strapped in, even though we were over some rough ground. If I was doing a lot of really rough ground, then maybe a volet strap around them to add a little bit of security. After having taken the cage off, I then jammed in one of these Osprey frame bags. For me, this actually just fits, but I do have a little bit of wasted space at the bottom. So at some point in time, I'm gonna have to make a custom frame bag or get somebody to make one for me. In here, I put a couple of repair tools, some more snacks for the day, anything that was heavy, bulky and dense. The other thing that I ran in here was my Katadyn B-Free, my 1 litre. So it actually fits within here quite well and allows me to carry an extra litre of water. Right, I'm gonna get to the back. Now this is where it all gets a little bit more controversial. We're starting to see in bike packing a little bit more use of panniers, things like tail fin and things as well. I'm short, so if I'm using my dropper post and a seat bag, I don't have enough space and clearance between the underside of my saddle and the rear wheel for a seat bag. It's just, I sort of touch on the back every so often. I've converted over to panniers because I want to still be able to use my dropper post. And yeah, just take a bit of pressure off the legs if you're going downhill for a long time, and also be able to manhandle the bike a little bit more. So I've got a nice lightweight rack system, and then I'm running 2 Ortlieb panniers, and I've got a bit of space on top. So on top of here, for this particular trip, what I've done is I've put just a Cedar Summit dry bag. Any old dry bag will do. And inside this, I was able to run carbon pole and the Mont Hyper Mid, which is their new pyramid tent. Front is sleep and everything that I need for sleep, and it's nicely packed away for all day and I don't have to get to it. The dry bag on the back gives me my shelter system, which is one of the first things that I'm going to pull out and set up when I get to camp. Having those two fully self-contained that I don't have to touch and mess around with during the day just works really well for me. What I really like about the panniers is the ease at which you can put gear in and pull it out. On this side here, I've got my waterproof jacket. So I'm able to pull that out, I'm able to put it on, I'm able to take it off. It's really easy to be able to access that gear. One of the other critical things that I used a lot of on this particular trip, and particularly because it was cold. But this is the Patagonia Nano Air Hybrid. And what I really like about this jacket, there's a very light synthetic fill at the front, which stops the wind, and this mesh breathable back. Still gives you a little bit of heat retention, but what I found was that this piece, I'd take off going up the hills, particularly if we had a long climb, and I'd put it back on as soon as I started going downhill again. So having the ability to be able to grab this out of the panniers whenever I needed it. I'm a really big fan of a pannier setup now for the ability to be able to put in and out stuff. My pannier bag just disappeared out. Possum or a rat or something grabbed hold of it in the middle of the night and it just ripped it out of the tent. First time it's ever happened. On my trip, I organised the two panniers, one being food and mostly items that I'd need during the days, and the other being mostly items that I didn't need as much. Little bag, toilet paper, trowel, hand sanitizer, all the sort of stuff you need for ablutions. First aid, I tend to run basically it's a small plastic container, it's waterproof, stops anything from getting too crushed. There's some alcohol wipes, some bandages, some compression tape, ibuprofen as well. That's typically my first aid solution. Headlamp. Now I actually took 2 headlamps on my trip. I took one of these silvers, which is my main bike light. Now normally if I was mountain biking, I'd actually run 2 of these, one on the helmet and then one on my handlebars. But for the purposes of this trip, I really wasn't going to be doing a lot of night riding. It's more as an emergency. I actually thought about using this on a normal nightly basis as well around camp, but it throws out so much light that it's just too bright when you're sat there cooking and talking with a mate. I actually ended up carrying little Petzl Swift RL as well, so I could run that in low mode, and it had more than enough battery for using it every night around camp. Snow Peak double wall titanium mug. I like a cup of tea, hot chocolate, that sort of thing. I like it not to cool down too fast, so the double wall mugs for me are really important. Titanium, so it's nice and light. So I carried a 230-gram gas canister. So I just used a little gas stove for this trip. 230 was enough for me, even with the cooking. And my cooking system for this particular trip, sort of a bit of a combination. So stove-wise, I'm using the Soto Windmaster. It's nice and compact, it's like 80 grams. It does a pretty good job in the wind. It's got a piezo igniter on it as well. Snow Peak spork, little lightweight Leatherman knife. It's got a serrated edge on it. This particular trip, I didn't want to use freeze-dried food. I had self-sourcing pudding as a potential dessert option. So what I really wanted to do was resupply in Tumut, resupply in Tumbarumba. Just restock at my favourite outdoor store and use food that I could source from the local supermarket. Packet pasta, packet rice, combined with some sausage and things. This is a Snow Peak Trek 900, so it's a larger pot, and that allowed me to do a bit of cooking, actually be able to stir it. It sits really nicely on the Soto stove. Second part of my system, my cook system, is a bowl. Now, technically it's not a bowl, it's a titanium pot. You could use a titanium bowl or any other sort of bowl. I was using this for breakfast and porridge and stuff like that. So just to save eating out of the big one. That said, you could eat out of the big one, save a little bit of weight. Moving on, I'm back into other clothing. Waterproof pants. My trip was during winter. Summer I may not carry them when the temperature's warmer. I'm happy to ride in the rain where it's 20 degrees. But riding in the rain when it's 7 or 8 and you're getting wet and cold, particularly if it's colder than that. So carrying a set of waterproof pants was vital for that. As part of that as well, I really like sealskin socks. So I don't have a dedicated winter waterproof cycling shoe. What I do is I grab a pair of sealskin socks and wear them instead. Now, being a waterproof sock, that means my feet are dry. Thermarest sleeping mat. I've used this thing for years. I think I've had it about 8 years. It's a Thermarest X-Therm. Really good, really comfortable. I use the same mat whether it's summer or winter, so I really like it. Tie levers, tyre boot. What else have we got in here? Spare tube and brake pads as well. So apart from a multi-tool for being able to change some of these gears and fix some of these, actually carrying a full-size spare and things as well. Talking about navigation and data, trip recording and things, heart rate, I'm using the Coros Apex 2 Pro. I really like this watch. It's nice and it's light. It gives me all the data that I need. I mapped out my routes to start with as well, so it told me whether I was en route or off route. Now I'm really keen to try Coros's new bike computer that hasn't been launched in Australia yet. As soon as I can buy myself one of those, I'm going to be able to have that a little bit more obviously on display while I'm riding along. But at the moment, I'm using their watch and it's brilliant. I use it for running and things as well. Menus are really simple, easy to understand, and just a matter of scrolling through. Last but not least is a down jacket for overnight, possibly a little bit overkill. It's a Patagonia Fitzroy. It's really nice and warm. I knew that I was going to be fatigued as well and starting cold first thing in the morning. So being able to put this on around camp on frosty mornings was really nice. But same thing, in summer, warmer weather, I'm going to cut out probably about 1 kilo of weight just by changing my down jacket to something lighter and changing my sleeping bag to something lighter as well. Really worth considering how much bulk, how much you need for the temperatures that you're going to be riding in, and then just modifying your gear a little bit if you've got the gear to be able to change that. There is no gear that is perfect for all year round. I hope you've enjoyed a look through at my gear that I carried on the 400Ks from Yass through to Albury via the Human Hovel. And yeah, if you're contemplating such a trip, reach out and I can help you go through some of your gear.